So the second strategy is take initiative. Look for ways to be proactive, solve problems, make improvements, and propose ideas.
In an entrepreneur's world, your title always is CPO. You are the Chief Problem Officer, because there are no shortage of problems to solve in business. Will you walk past the trash when you walk in the door every day, or will you bend over and pick it up? Will you wait for the janitor, or will you actually clean up the messes? And that to me is the biggest difference, is will you wait on someone else to do it because it's not my job, or do you just get shit done?
When you're an entrepreneur, they're like, I remember when me and you were talking about like CEO, and we were talking, and I think you said something. I didn't give you an excuse or something like that, and I think it kind of surprised you. I was like, the buck stops with me. Like, who do I complain to? But like, everybody is a CEO.
Yeah.
And so that if you like, I work no different now than I did before I had the title. I think you just kind of work up to the title.
Yeah, that's right. It's because when you're taking initiative, you're actually taking one of the other commandments. You're really taking ownership of the outcome, right? When you take initiative, you are taking responsibility of things that happen around you, and then eventually the title shows up.
Yeah,
that's the thing that I've learned is like, some people get hired for the title. Yeah. And then some people earn a title when they take initiative.
What's funny is the longer I chased the title, I never would get the title.
Yeah.
But then when you stop chasing the title, it just kind of pops up.
You know, it's interesting though, Mike. I mean, that you say that, like, you didn't ask me for the role. We just announced that we've done a nationwide partnership with Adam Hergenrother and the Hergenrother Realty Group, and I coached with Adam for 3 years. Never one single time did I ever ask for a role, a title, any involvement in the company at all. And
it makes sense.
And that the opportunity showed up for a need, and because I had taken initiative and demonstrated that without any compensation or without any involvement in the day-to-day company, there was the initiative to take responsibility for growing the production of the company. And so day one, jump in and take initiative. You said, this is what I got hired for. How do we solve a problem, and how do we drive agent productivity? So let's go. I mean, I know better than to wait around to be told what to do.
Right.
It would be a real short-lived opportunity for me if I waited on Adam to tell me what to do.
Yeah, and it was the same thing when I started, at Indy Metro West. If I waited to get trained, and that's the thing, people wait. Like, people are like, well, I don't know how to do a listing contract. Well, I don't know how to do it. Well, you know what? Figure it out. Like, you know what? Yeah. And so when I got hired as a CEO, and they were like, okay, you know what? I read a lot of books, and you just got to take action.
One of the best things that I've heard at Gary Keller's mastermind, I'm sure that's supposed to be private, so I'm going to ask for forgiveness later. But it was such a like punch in the face to me that it was so good. There was someone who stood up who I believe runs the farm and land and ranch division of the company, and the guy stood up at a mastermind one time because Linda McKissick asked the question that said, Gary, when do I know when I'm being too demanding of an outcome, and when am I expecting too much, and then when am I being reasonable? When am I being reasonable, or when am I being unreasonable? And Gary said, I actually don't know what you're talking about. Those two words are not words that are in my lexicon. I don't know the concept of reasonable or unreasonable.
Yeah.
I know probable and possible.
Right.
And if someone else has done it, I know it's possible. Whether or not that person can do it is probability, and I'm not focused on probability. I'm focused on possibility. And And I was like, well, that was not the answer I was expecting to hear, right? I really wanted him to answer the question, solve the problem, because I have the same problem. I'm sure everyone else does. How do I know when I'm being unreasonable or not? And so someone stood up in the Farm and Land Division and said, Gary, I'll never forget, the first week that I partnered with you, I said, I brought an idea to you that we should implement, and told you all about what it was. And you said, that's a great idea. And then he goes, and I ask you back, well, so what do we do next then? Like, what do we have to do to put it together? And Gary goes, if you have to ask that question, you're the wrong person. Yeah. And he goes, you turned around and you walked away from me, and in 7 years, you've never answered a single question for me.
Yeah. And that's totally
my mind blew.
it. That is it. Like, people come to you with problems.
Yeah,
but nobody, like, you're looking for the people. Not only do you have the problems, but what is the solution? Mm-hmm. And so that's adding value. Like, as soon as you figure that out, like, anybody can say, this is wrong, but how do we fix it? And that's what you need as an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Someone who takes initiative of that in order to drive the value
and owns it.
Yeah, I thought it was cool. The guy said he'd been there for 7 years, and Gary's never answered another question for him like that or solved one of his problems. So it's someone who's taking the initiative to generate that value.
It really does have a lot to play into what you were saying, Eric. It's you've got highlighted in your book here for those of you that are listening or watching. I'm holding Eric's book, so it's always interesting to see what somebody highlights in a book. But he's got proactive versus reactive highlighted. So being proactive means stepping out, taking a risk, and trying something, which is a true entrepreneurial skill and capability. But then being reactive means you're being passive and waiting for others to go first. And so it is asking for forgiveness and not permission. And so then it's just taking those initial steps that I think is the difference maker. To somebody that actually bring value to a company, or somebody that is just kind of waiting around to be told what to do, which is vital, I feel like, in any kind of company's growth. A couple of there's 4 take action steps here outlined in this section of the book. One is ask yourself, how could this situation be improved? What could I do to make it better? Number 2 is start by taking small risks that have few negative consequences to acclimate yourself to taking risks. So just generally get used to it. And then you'll probably even see like, my boss isn't reacting negatively when I actually try to fix something. So I imagine you guys, when you guys have somebody that just is attempting to be proactive.
I do it to Eric. I just, run fast, break shit.
Yeah.
I do feel like it's probably appreciated too. Yeah, because it's like, okay, there was an attempt here. Yeah.
I won't do that again, or, hey, it worked.
Well, I mean, and largely, I can tell you one thing for sure that I experience is that when someone doesn't take initiative, is that it leaves me as the chief decision-making officer, and the more decisions that you make in a day, the fewer decisions that you're able to make well. Yeah. And there's a lot of days that I'll procrastinate a decision because there are too many decisions, or I don't have the right answer and don't have the white space to make that right answer. So when people just take the ball and run with it, it eliminates the need for extra bottlenecking decisions to be made.
Yeah. It just kind of leads into number 3, recognize that asking for permission is a habit, and so is asking for forgiveness. So just like making it a habit to just take action and then see what happens versus sitting by paralysis by analysis and just waiting for something to happen, or, well, let's see what happens first, then I'll maybe say something. So I think it's also important to have like an environment and culture within your organization that fosters that kind of feedback.
That you can do it.
Yeah, because otherwise, what can lead to this take action step 4, which is be sensitive to how your suggestions come across, so that people you want to help make things better, and you're not just being critical.
Yeah. That's one of the things. That's actually one of the like delicate dances that I'm going through myself, is knowing that I'm early in the leadership phase with the company and with the leadership team. I want to jump in and just take initiative or take responsibility for a vertical, The reality is that I also realized that the new guy who wants to point out problems and suggest things is also really freaking annoying. And so there is a balance of trying to understand what is the accepted dynamic of a team of leaders, in which, okay, what can you not touch in a company?
Yeah.
And what can you touch and run with and make better? Where's that balance? I think that's where you have to observe people.
Yeah.
And you have to build trust.
Yeah.
In order to take initiative and ask for forgiveness without being the annoying person.
Yeah. And how do you show up to other people?
Yeah.
So you have to be super mindful of how you show up to people. So then you can, how
would you do that?
Oh man.
It's a great. Hearing you say that was a great framing perspective for me.
Yeah.
I guess
I struggle with it.
Yeah.
I really do. I struggle with it because you have to, the way people see you, and you have to the biggest way I do it is results.
Okay.
When I open my mouth, what I say, and then it's actions, receipts. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, what came to mind listening to you was when you show up to serve, the organization and the person that you're working with is the quickest way probably to build that level of trust. And so what I've been doing as an effort to ensure that there's an understanding of intent is, what can I take off your plate?
Right.
What are you doing that is
You're
bogging
adding
down
value.
your job in order for me to own that, so that it's, if I appear to be critical,
right,
then I want to be critical of the things that you don't want to do anymore and are bogging down your 20%.
So not only are you being critical, you're giving a solution, so that you can be a part of the solution.
Yeah, because in my opinion, leaders and people who have a high set of standards for themselves want to contribute.
Absolutely, yeah. So you don't want to just do it to dump on them. You want to do it to help them.
That's right.
And so a couple of things another thing that you said earlier, about adding energy to someone. The one fallacy as an entrepreneur that I have learned, and it's it burned me out, is that you can't really add energy to anyone. It may be temporary, but if your focus is on bringing on people that the batteries are included, because if you are putting your energy, you just don't have enough energy to run a business.
How do you identify that in an interview for any of you? If you're meeting with somebody, how do you think that you uncover that part? Whether someone has batteries included or not?
I did hear on a podcast I was editing this week about a tactic that this person uses when they're hiring someone. They give them a task that's really, really difficult. And in this case, it was finding a bakery, a good cake for but only pay $12 for it, because she knew that was a really hard thing to do. And so she was actually doing it to see how people solved it. Organized people would send a spreadsheet, and it'd be this bakery's this far away, and I was able to get them down to this if you buy this many. And but then a creative person might run into it and be I don't think we're gonna be able to find it for that price. So they may even come up with you could get cupcakes for this, or you could get this for this.
Interesting.
So she uses that when she's interviewing people to figure out, literally, do you have enough batteries included to go solve a difficult problem?
Yeah.
And then also sees then how they use their energy to solve the problem.
Yeah, we do something similar from an operations side with same thing, which is a travel experiment. Basically, if fictitious scenario is I come in and drop this problem that I'm traveling to go to a conference on this date. Walk me through all the steps that you're going through in order to ensure that this is all taken care of and booked, and then demonstrate what the end product looks like.
Yeah.
And my intent is to try to understand is, are you reserving an expensive hotel? Are you booking a Motel 6? Mm-hmm. Are we getting a direct flight? Are we getting multiple stops? am I speaking at the conference or am I attending the conference? So am I going in the morning? Am I going the day before? Am I like, what are the logistics? There's not a right or a wrong answer.
Right.
But here's the thing, I'm not available. So you have to figure, you got to have the outcome.
Yeah.
And I'm not, and I'm not available to answer your questions. So, but you got to have it booked.
And you want to see the process. You want to see how they come to the conclusion or whether they're going to. I remember I used to early on. I don't do this anymore, but I used to during my interview I would send them a KPA, and once I send them a KPA, I would do an interview on the phone. Once I do an interview on the phone, I would meet them, and I would literally sit them in front of my computer, and I'd say, make phone calls until I tell you to stop.
Yeah.
I did. I would just say, hey, just bang out phone calls till I tell you to stop. Here's the script. Here's what we're doing. This is what you're doing. And people would do it. Some people, I ain't doing that. Yeah. You know whether or not you're going to be good on my team or not. That was the quickest way. Or they'll do it for 15 minutes and I will go in there and the dude is gone. Yeah.
One last thing for batteries, I think, is how you test for this. When we go through the career visioning process at Keller Williams, you go through the life story portion of the conversation with that candidate. During that life story, what I'm looking for is what are ways that a person has historically demonstrated a habit and a pattern of having a extracurricular success and or success in whatever they set out to achieve. So are they doing things without provocation, like working while in college? Are they on, Quiz Bowl and sports and extracurriculars while going to college? Are they doing things that require more of themselves than just status
showing
quo?
up?
Yeah.
Another thing I look for victims.
Oh gosh, yeah.
So like, why did you leave? And if they blame everything on everybody else, then it is what it is. You can kind of pick that up really quick. Yeah. And so like, if you have that for some reason, there's a disconnect. They just don't. I can't partner with them very well.